Is it possible to publish a photography book with only blurry photos? This is the work of Croatian photographer Olga Karlovac, and today we'll be trying to recreate her unique style. In the world of photography, sharpness is overrated. Olga Karlovac is living proof that you don't need the sharpest image to become a published photographer with your own gallery space. Originally born in Dubrovnik, Karlovac is an economist by training. She became more involved with photography later in life as a way of stress relief. She shoots only in black and white and only blurry photos. Virtually all of her photographs depict the two cities of Dubrovnik and Zagreb, where she was born and where she currently lives, respectively. She is a self-taught photographer and mainly uses point-and-shoot cameras, specifically the Ricoh GR and GR2. Karlovac self-published her first book, Before Winter, in 2017. This was followed by The Disarray in 2019 and Escape in 2021, completing the trilogy. Each of these books represents a specific period in her life. She's very active on social media, and it's through her online posts that she was able to secure her first exhibitions. Karlovac prefers black and white because, in her words, it gives more strength and essence. Her photos are strong in contrast and grain, with broad strokes, reminiscent of an impressionist painter. Her subjects are usually dark figures wandering through city streets, like lost memories. With time, your memories blur. You may forget the fine details, but you remember the broad strokes, and most importantly, the emotion you felt at the time. Feelings linger on in our memories far longer than facts, and these feelings are what Karlovac wants to preserve in her photos. Her images are often shot through a screen, either window panes or rain and snow, giving an effect similar to the kind of scenes you'd see if you looked outside while sitting in a cafe during inclement weather. So how can we recreate this look? Well, we need to take pictures of people walking, preferably on a narrow sidewalk, so we get buildings rising up on the sides and background. There's not much dynamic range on our images, so if we can get buildings with lighter coloured walls or snow on the ground, that would give us some nice subject-background separation via contrast. Camera-wise, the Ricoh GR has an 18mm fixed lens on an APS-C sensor, so we'll need a focal length similar to that. There's a lot of grain on her images, which means she's probably shooting at a mid to high ISO setting. To get that blur, she's using a slow shutter speed, and in order to offset the high ISO and slow shutter, she's probably shooting at a small aperture. For this video, I'll be using my APS-C Nikon DSLR with its 18 to 55mm kit lens. I'll be shooting at f/22 in a range of shutter speeds from 1/8 to 1/2 seconds. And I'll be using an ND filter to limit the light coming in. Now, the blur in Olga Karlovac's images is not just about the shutter speed. We also need to talk about intentional camera movement. Alexei Titarenko, who I've discussed in my previous video, uses ICM to add highlights to his images. If you look at this photo, you see what looks like sun shafts is actually an effect for moving his camera while the shutter is open. Likewise, some of Karlovac's images have streaks characteristic of intentional camera movement. It's a very painterly technique. We can also think of it in terms of stamps. Think of the paper as the camera sensor, and a stamped impression as the image being recorded on the sensor. Once the shutter is open, the longer I keep the camera at one angle and in one position, the stronger the impression of that particular angle and position will be. If I move the camera while the shutter is open, I'll get more impressions on the sensor, but they will be progressively lighter. If I want to get a distinct impression along with the multiple lighter impressions, I will have to hold the camera for a moment and then drag it in one direction. It takes some practice with the camera to find the appropriate movement for your composition. In interviews, Karlovac has stated that she tries to keep her shooting intuitive. She never really plans her shots in advance. When she feels like taking pictures, she just goes out and sees what happens. So, in that spirit, let's take a walk and try this out. Well, that's my attempt to imitate Olga Karlovac's style. Her work highlights an important lesson when it comes to art photography. It's not about having one nice picture, it's about having a distinct style and committing to it long term, so you develop a body of work that can be appreciated contextually. As a self-taught, self-published photographer, Olga Karlovac shows how far you can go by finding your style and committing to it. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one.